Thank you for joining me. My name is Baskharon, part of the EIT Advanced Diploma of Mechanical Engineering students. This is a practical assignment um, and it's on environmental issues in Australia, greenhouse gas emissions. Readings and resources. So the resources and readings that I mainly compiled is the home of DCCEW, which is the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water from the Australian Government, the Wikipedia of Australia, and the Wikipedia of greenhouse gas emissions by Australia. Environment overview. Australia is a large continent made up of a mainland that is surrounded by several smaller islands and a large island, Tasmania. Australia makes up an area of 7,617,930 square kilometres and is the world's sixth largest country. Australia is surrounded by the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Due to its size, Australia is diverse in landscapes and climates, including tropical rainforests, mountain ranges, and a desert making up a large portion of its land in the centre, known as the outback. Due to climate change factors, average temperatures in Australia have risen by 1 degree since the 1960s. This change in temperature has seen changes in rainfall patterns, droughts, and bushfires. Australia's greenhouse gas emissions per capita is among the highest in the world. Greenhouse gas emissions in Australia has totaled 533 million tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent based on the Greenhouse Gas National Report from 2019, representing a staggering 21 tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions per capita, which is 3 times the global average. Coal was responsible for 30% of emissions. For the financial year ending in 2021, the estimate was 494.2 million tonnes, which was 27.8 million tonnes, or 5.3% lower than the previous year, and 20.8% lower than in 2005. The government's reflection of the lower emissions is largely based on the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, as there was less travel and transport, reduced fugitive emissions, and reductions of power consumptions. However, the greenhouse gas emissions increased from land and agriculture sectors. Australia uses mainly coal power for electricity, accounting for 66% of grid-connected electricity generation in 2020. This is rapidly decreasing with the introduction of government policies and Australia's growing its share of renewable energy sources. Most of the existing coal-fired power stations are scheduled to stop operating between 2022 and 2048. Emissions by the country have started to fall and are expected to continue to fall in the coming years as more projects come online. The Climate Action Tracker 8, which is Australia's overall commitment to emissions reduction, reflects Australia being highly insufficient. Policies and action, as well as domestic targets, are both insufficient. Fair share target is highly inefficient, and climate change finances are critically insufficient. The main cause of these insufficient finances is due to the Australian government investing in natural gas projects and the refusal to increase the domestic targets. To summarise, change in Australia is caused by greenhouse gas emissions. Climate change in Australia is caused by greenhouse gas emissions, and the country is generally becoming hotter and more prone to extreme heat, bushfires, droughts, floods, and longer fire seasons due to climate change. People in Australia have protested the nation's role in causing climate change, and better action is required. Here you can see a graph that I've made up. It shows the 32% of coal-fired plant emissions We've got 19% of stationary energy, which is energy that's generated from generators for industrial purposes. And then we have 17% from the transport industry, whether that be motor vehicles, trucks for haulage, aeroplanes, etc. I want to thank you for taking time to listen to my presentation on climate change. 3 things to take action against climate change that I want you to take away today is we need to stop using coal-fired power stations before 2048. We need to start raising our commitments to greenhouse gas emission reduction. And we need to continue educating the politicians who have the power to make swifter change with greenhouse gas emission policies and projects.